Now more than ever, you heard about the importance of STEM education and the need of qualified computer programmers. Maybe you even know someone who started learning to code, or perhaps you've heard about how programming can be rewarding, lucrative career. This course is designed for you, someone who's curious to pull back the curtains and explore the world of computer programming. I'll walk you through your first line of code, explain the core concepts needed to write useful programs, and take a peek at several programming languages along the way. I am Atir Maher from the Bedford College Group. I've worked in the software industry and education for over a decade, and programming is one of my favorite things to do. I also love to share what I know with others, so I am really excited to help you master the fundamental of programming in the Bedford College Group. Learning outcomes. By the end of this course, students will be able to first, define basic algorithms to carry out an operation and outline the process of programming an application. Two, explain the characteristics of procedural, object-oriented, and event-driven programming. Three, implement basic algorithms in code using an IDE. Four, determine the debugging process and explain the importance of a coding standard. Today's lesson, you will learn the following. What is programming? What is programming language? Writing source code, running your code, using an IDE, and then test your knowledge. What is programming? Well, when you pick up your phone and check the time, respond to a message, or comment on a friend's picture, you're experiencing the results of what someone programmed your phone to do. Programming is the process of converting ideas into instructions that a computer can understand and execute. These instructions are specific and sequential. You can think of it a bit like a recipe. The instructions we provide to computers need to be specific so that we can get our desired result. Computers try to execute our commands exactly. So computers are very literal. When we give them bad instructions, we may introduce bugs or even make the computer crash. In programming, a bug is when something unexpected happens, whereas a crash is when your program stops early or freezes. The other characteristic of computer instructions is that they are sequential, just like the steps in a recipe. It's all about giving computers the right instructions and the correct sequence of steps to produce the desired result. This is important because programming is just as much about finding errors and preventing crashes as it is about writing the instructions or code that the computer understands. So, to recap, programming is how we communicate with the digital world. It is characterized by having instructions that are specific and sequential. And when we get our code right, just like a recipe, the end result is a program that helps us to enjoy a bit more of our world. What is a programming language? When you want to provide instructions to a computer, you use what's called a programming language. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of programming languages available, each made up of its own syntax, or rules, or semantics, or meanings. Let's look at a few examples of the Hello World program. Maybe you've already heard of it before. It's the most basic program used for decades to get started with a new programming language. It's helped to highlight the differences in syntax between languages. First, we look at a language called C++. This is how we would get the program to display hello world when run. Now, it may look strange to you, but that's okay. Soon you will be able to understand exactly what's happening. For now, I want you to just notice the syntax used in the language. This consists of double quotas around the word hello world, the use of semicolon at the end of the statement, and there's a return key right before a closing curly brace. All of these things are part of the syntax or rules of the C++ programming language. Let's look at a few more examples. This language is called JavaScript. It's a very popular language used in virtually every website these days. This is how we would display hello world using JavaScript. Notice the use of different syntax. First, the word hello world are now inside of single quotes. We don't have any curly braces. Instead, we see something about document.write. And finally, here's hello world in Python. Similar syntax to JavaScript, but now we don't see any parentheses and the use of double quotas has returned, just like we saw with C++. Now you may be wondering, what's the point of having so many different languages, especially if they do the same thing? Why not just have one programming language and we all use it? The main reason why we have so many languages is that each comes with its own set of strengths and weaknesses. Some are ideal for programming small devices with limited memory, whereas others were made to handle complex mathematical computations. Regardless of the language you choose, ultimately, that language has to be broken down into the only one that computers understand: machine language. Machine language is extremely complex for us to write directly because it's mostly just a series of numbers. Professor Mike Dehan compared machine code to DNA molecules. Can you imagine trying to read a DNA sequence atom by atom? That would take you forever. And this is why we have these other languages that we call high-level languages. They are closer to human languages, comprised of keywords, structure, and syntax that's easier for us to learn and understand. Writing source code is what programmers do all day. It's the instructions we have for computer, and it's written in plain text. In other words, we write it without special formatting, like bold, italic, or different font types. It's mostly just the actual characters. This means the word processing application aren't suitable for writing code because by default they insert bits of information in files that prevent them from being plain text. Instead, you can use a text editor. If you're on a PC, you already have a text editor available to you, Notepad. And for Mac users, there is TextEdit. Both applications allow you to write source code. So let's start off by doing our favorite program, Hello World. We are going, I am going to type print, open parentheses, double quotas, Hello World, exclamation mark, double quotas, and a closing parenthesis. Let's go ahead and save this file. By default, TextEdit save files with a .text extension. This is because it's plain text, but it's a best practice to use an extension that corresponds to the programming language that's inside of your file. Since the code was written In Python, we are going to use the Python extension, which is .py. Each programming language has its own file extensions. For JavaScript, it's .js, Perl.pl, whereas a language like Kotlin uses .kt. Now that we know how to write our code, we need to learn how to translate it into the language that the computer speaks, machine language. This is a vital step to get it running on any